I want to just talk a little bit about Sukkot. I feel like it's, I don't want to say formalities, but we want to talk about the feast, specifically at the feast, at least one time. We're going to get into the scriptures, but we have to at least understand the reason, um, even if it's not to the point of understanding, rehearsing the reason why um, we're here. It's interesting when you think about uh, all things that include the worship as the Most High created it. They did things over and over again, the same thing. They sacrifice at the same time every day, a couple times a day. When these feast days came around, they had the same amount of offerings that they brought every time. So there's a lot of repetition in the established worship that the Most High has given to us. So I guess is my way of copying that model. So we have to just go over the basics again and again. So, all right, don't kick that string anymore. Um, okay, so let us begin by let's go to Leviticus 23. Leviticus 23, and read verses 42 and 43. Hold on. Leviticus. Actually, 39. Read from 39 to 43, please. Go, go ahead,
Verse 39. On the 15th day of the seventh new moon, when you gather in the fruit of the land, celebrate the festival of Yahweh for 7 days. On the first day is a rest, and on the eighth day a rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the fruit of good trees, branches of palm trees, twigs of leafy trees, and willows of the stream, and shall rejoice before Yahweh your Elohim for 7 days. And you shall celebrate it as a festival to Yahweh for 7 days in the year. Elah, forever in your generations. Celebrate it in the seventh new moon. Dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native born of Israel dwell in booths, so that your generations know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Mitzrayim. I am Yahweh, your Elohim.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. All right, so I want to kind of just deal with verses, things that are within verses 42 and 43. Beginning with the word dwell. We are to dwell in booths. That word dwell there is yashab. Yashab means to sit down, uh, particularly in ambush. When you seek to ambush some, I don't know if anybody in here has ever ambushed anyone. But if you did, you kind of you're laying in wait. You're waiting. There's a waiting uh, with anticipation. Um, that's involved in the ambush, right? And so with that word, we have the idea of just that. There's a sitting. There's a waiting. There's an anticipation thing that's involved. To remain, to dwell, to settle, to marry. If we think about the word yashab, and understanding that it has the idea of marrying, those that value the sanctity of marriage, understand that there is a finality, right? There's a kind of long lasting component to that in terms of the idea of marriage. And so we think about this word, yashab, you have all of these things incorporated in it. So abiding, right? Continuing, all these are things that are connected with this word, yashab. And so again, when we think about the feast days in general, something that I always talk about is the fact that the feast days in their entirety give us a picture and a complete picture of the plan of salvation that the Most High has from us, starting from the beginning to the end. With Passover, Feast of Unleavened Bread being just the beginning. If we was to call that anything in the scope of our salvation cycle, our initial salvation, our initial coming over to the Master, our initial conversion, our initial status change happens at Passover, where we receive our redemption, where we receive our justification, where you're dealing with justification where it's not connected to actual righteousness. You're just simply dealing with the fact that the Most High chooses you and He provides a way for you to make it back to Himself. You go from being a slave to Pharaoh, to your flesh, to your carnal mind, and the Most High Himself actually becomes your new master. At Passover, right? Feast of Unleavened Bread. I mentioned this even last week. Feast of Unleavened Bread, you make this dedication. You say, I want to remove leaven from my life. I'm going to do this week of dedication of not eating leaven, which is a picture of the dedication that we make. We say that we're going to live a life that's dedicated unto the Most High. We're going to live this life and we're going to remove sin from our lives. But when we initially do it, we don't know everything that what sin even looks like. I don't know how many times for Feast of Unleavened Bread, I clean out the whole cabinets and everything and take out all of the known things with leaven in it. Come to find out halfway through, I done found something in the house. There's leaven there that I didn't even know was there. So the same thing is true when we think about, coming to the Most High, in the beginning, during that, uh, that initial process, we make a commitment to the Most High and don't fully know what we're getting ourselves into yet. Um, and then next after that, we have Shavuot, which is the giving of the commandments, the sealing. Kind of now, we have this beginning of an understanding, lays out for us through his law, statutes, commands, what he likes, what he doesn't like, with the giving of the commandments. You also know that Shavuot is when the Spirit is poured out, he places the law on our hearts. Again, this sealing of the covenant. We are truly connected to Yeshua, the Most High, when we have the Spirit of the Most High dwelling, Yeshabing on the inside of us, right? And so once now we have that part taken care of, now we're ready to do the work. Now we have Yom Teruah. Now we're ready to make a declaration of this transformation that we have experienced with Yom Teruah. And we're able to sound the alarm for judgment that comes, which is Yom Kippur. And once we make it through judgment, Now we get to the place of forever dwelling with the Most High, forever dwelling with the Master Yeshua, and that's one of the things that we kind of typify with Sukkot is that forever dwelling with the Messiah when He returns. Well, with another thing, obviously, based on what we look at in this verse over here in terms of dwelling in booths, think about the time that we uh, dwell in the wilderness for those 40 years. But again, when you think about what that meant for Israel at that time, this was the kind of transforming of Israel from one state to another. We know that the people that went in to the wilderness, those same people didn't come out. Israel looked totally different from when they went into the wilderness from the time that they went out. If you look at the numbers, like the counts, they have pre uh, Egypt, pre wilderness and post wilderness. The numbers kind of the same. We know that the older generation didn't make it. So it's like you had a total kind of reset of Israel who goes into the wilderness and who goes out. And so when you think about that in terms of, how we kind of think about these feast days as these things are made to kind of refine us. These days and times are made to kind of give us the time to be able to look at our personal situations and make adjustments in our life. I've we've been here not even a full day, and I've already heard about things people talking about the fact that we don't know everything, right? So if you don't know everything, there's always room for you to grow. Amen. And we really should be constantly, um, having that on our minds to evolve, to grow. It's a shame. It's a shame uh, uh, if I talk to you now and I see you 5 years from now, and I'm stuck on something that I was on 5 years ago. Either either I've reached my pinnacle already, or there's no growth. And things that aren't growing are dead. Um, and so we have to think about these things. These are the time that the Most High has created, for us to think about these things over and over again every year. Um, at these times. Okay, so I want to look at also. I want to look at. Let's go over to look at. Let's see, John 14:23. Because not only do we think about the wilderness, but as I said, we think about um, eternity. We think about where we're going. We think about the destination. We think about the fact that, this life for us in its entirety is our wilderness experience. And we're waiting to get to the land of promise. Um, Read for us John 14, verse 23.
Yeshua answered him, if anyone loves me, he shall guard my word, and my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him and make our stay with him.
Make our stay. And so that word, obviously, from the New Testament is Greek, but it has this same connotation as what we're dealing with Yeshab as to stay, to remain, to dwell. The Most High comes, Messiah comes and literally stays with those who have been fortified um, with the Ruach Hakodesh. Um, you know, you think about the concept that is kind of dealt with at times with mainstream Christianity when they talk about the spirit, falling into the place. Like you did this or that, you, you ushered in uh, the spirit so that the spirit came. Um, you know, the idea. I was never, I was never one to, they people talk about women coming to Shabbat in terms of cleanness. I can understand to a degree, but the thought process is not to bring uncleanness to the situation. My question always is, so at that time, does the spirit leave a woman one time a month? Does the spirit go away? Does your physical uncleanness cause for the spirit of the Most High to come and go because of your state of uncleanness? Um, can we even be uh, ceremonially clean in this place that we are? If you go to the store, I don't know what that cashier, what's the state of the cashier? I don't know what the state is of the person that touched the bag of salad before I got there. Let me get this salad. Oh, never mind. And then I'm right behind them. Oh, I want this one. Right? We live in this place of perpetual ceremonial uncleanness, but in that state, the spirit is staying with us. The spirit is dwelling in us, with us, um, from the time that we have that seed, that earnest of the spirit placed inside of us, that seed of the spirit, that down payment on, uh, the big payoff of the spirit in us, right? Um, from the time that that happens, it's in there. Hopefully, it's growing. Hopefully, you're walking in that spirit. Hopefully, that spirit inside of you is becoming more and more influential in your life, and it's not just a thing because you can cause that spirit to be retarded, right? You can that spirit could be in you, you just not pay no attention to. It could just be like that arm that you don't never use that just gets withers away, or it could be something that's exercised, that's fed and grows inside of it. And so when we think about what Yeshua promises over here to us in terms of, loving him, um, he says, if a man love me and keep my words, and my father will love him, and we, Yeshua, and the Ruach HaKodesh was speaking about will make our abode with him. We think about, again, what we're doing out here, this abiding, this staying, this remaining, this dwelling, it causes us to understand these words that he's speaking to us. Because we made a choice to come out somewhere and abode there. There's things that go on while we're here, but we're into it. We've made the decision to abode here. And so when we rehearse these things, abiding in these situations, um, it gives us a picture of life. We knew before we got here that it's probably gonna rain. Probably gonna rain. But we could have said, well, it's gonna rain, so we can't do this. It's gonna be cold. My wife he just was probably having nightmares about being in the cold in a tent before we get up here. But it's the same. But these things teach us. I don't know why the Most High um, commands that we have these object lessons in life. Well, I do know why. I just kind of said it. It's rhetorical. Uh, he caused us to have these life lessons, because this is what life is. We make a decision. We said, "Yes, Master, I'll follow you," in spite of what life is going to give us. If we sat up here and said, "Well, I promise to follow after Messiah as long as everything is perfect," huh? What kind of disciple is that? When you're in a learning situation, uh, it's uncomfortable, isn't it? When you think about going to, I've never been to the army, but I've seen movies about it, and it's pretty as far as it goes. I've seen movies about it, I've seen it a little on TV, but it's hard. It started off hard. The drill sergeants and all of that, but the science behind it, you need to. You're killing the old man, and you're making a new man. You're getting them ready to go out here and do these things that they just regular they wasn't ready to do. You wasn't just born ready to go somewhere and shoot me. You know what I mean? You got to get trained for that. You got to get trained to see your buddy's leg blown off and keep on going. Somebody come in here and your leg is blown off, it's gonna be hard to fight. Probably running for cover. It's gonna be hard. I'm not trained. I can say theoretically that I'm ready to go, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But when you're in that situation untrained, you don't know what's gonna happen. It's all theory. It's all theoretical. Saying all that to say, the Most High puts us in training. You open up your mouth and say that I will follow you. The first thing that's gonna happen is that Messiah's gonna say, okay, let's see how far you gonna follow. Let's give you some of this over here, a little adversity. Take this, just a little bit. You pass that test, it's not like that's the last test. Right? You're gonna get some more adversity. You master one area, and then you gotta master the next one, and then just keep on going. But he don't leave us out here just trying to figure this thing out on our own. He gives us the Ruach HaKodesh, gives us the Spirit that teaches us. And if we listen, it leads us and guides us into all truth. If we go back thinking about again our verse, Leviticus 23 and 42, we're dwelling in booths. We're dwelling in booths. So if we look at that word over there, booth, a booth is a sukkah, right? It's a hut, it's a lair, it's a cottage. You have people that, you know, the Sukkot police look at our fancy tents and say, you ain't Sukkot, and you supposed to be with some wood and some bushes. You know what I'm saying? That's how you Sukkot. In the rain. If it rain, it don't matter. Whatever. Right. You just that's a booth. That's a Sukkot, right? When you have this hut, because the roof is intertwined. It's literally intertwined bows. I feel like the idea, we're performing the idea. We're in our temporary dwellings. I remember, when we first started keeping some code, we would be in like a place, like a facility, and then we would go out and like put like branch decorations in the place, right? We decorated it, right? That was in the beginning. We kind of, I don't know if we graduated what we did to this That's what we're doing now. Somebody said we didn't, guys. Somebody say we went backwards. I don't know. I don't know which direction I'm going, but there's a differentiation between what we did do at a time and what we do now. But the idea is that we're dwelling in a place. How about cruise? But I guess people go on cruises. I mean, it's a temporary dwelling. If you're gonna make an argument for one, I'm just being legalistic if I speak against the cruise. But I personally wouldn't go on a cruise for Sukkot, but I can't talk about anybody who does. That boat, I guess, is a temporary dwelling. Maybe they can put some branches in their cruise room or whatever. I don't know. Um, but think about the the legal Sukkot. You know, you do have a type of covering. You have a covering. Think about the word in the ancient. I should have brought my whiteboard. One thing I forgot. I know I should have brought it. But a Sukkot, a Samet, is in the ancient. It's like thorns. You think about thorns. They surround, and they have like spikes on them, and so they protect. It's a hedge around, and they protect. They keep the bad things out. They keep you in too, because you don't want to get pricked by the thorns, right? But it also protects. So you have with Sukkot, you have the Samek, which is the thorns that surround and protect, and you have the open palm, which is the kaf, the open palm. So if you have the hand that's open, that protects and surrounds, and Sukkot, the tav, is just a mark or a sign. So you have the mark or the sign of the things that are there, which is the open palm and the surrounding thorns. If Yeshua is not the palm that surrounds and protects, I don't know what he is. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what he is. He is the arm of the Most High. When we think about, prophetically, the Most High um, redeeming his people with a strong arm, with a mighty hand. I don't know about you, but he redeemed me with his hand, who is, in fact, Yeshua HaMashiach. And so when we think about the idea of dwelling in booths, staying in booths, or abiding in this hand that surrounds me and protects me, it only causes me to think about Messiah and what he is for me, and understanding that he is my protector. He is the one who surrounds me from all hurt, harm, and danger. So I don't have to think about what could, may, should happen, because I'm moving through leading and guiding of my master. So we think about, yes, we think about the time in the wilderness, and yes, we think about even dwelling with Messiah in terms of the wedding supper. Um, but we also think about the, the, the difficult, potentially difficult times that can and most likely will happen, and being able to move forward in spite of, all of these things. Let's look over at Deuteronomy. Read Deuteronomy 8. Read 2 through 6.
Deuteronomy chapter 8. starting at verse 2. And you shall remember that Yahweh your Elohim led you all the way these 40 years in the wilderness to humble you, prove you, to know what is in your heart, whether you guard his commands or not. And he humbled you and let you suffer hunger and fed you with manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, to make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of Yahweh.
Oh, wait, can you stop right there? It's it's interesting when you think about the wilderness and the manna, and understanding that Yeshua himself said that he was in fact the manna. He said, "I am the bread from heaven." Every time I look at this, when it talks about the manna which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, I think about, of course, Yeshua, where he walked the earth, where the vast majority they didn't understand who he was. Even with him telling them who he was, there was still kind of a disconnect. But he literally was the manna. He literally is the manna. He literally is that one where there's a certain amount of kind of peculiarity about who he is. If somebody wants to sit up here and talk about, I have a perfect understanding of the relationship between the Father and the Son, I don't believe you. I don't believe you. I don't. I don't. If that's what you say. If I can sit up here and say that I totally understand, I can explain it perfectly, the relationship between the Almighty and Yeshua. I'm just going to, without even hearing the explanation, I'm going to say, no, you don't. You don't. Because there's things about this thing that are too, it's perplexing. But I think it brings to life these words of this manna that you don't know. I fed you with this thing that there's things about this whole situation that, for instance, when I read, it's interesting when you look at um, the the early uh, Christian fathers who, you know, they we're able to see people that were the literal disciples of the disciples. We're able to go back and see the people that were like second and third generation coming from the disciples. Them think about and write about things that turns into the Trinity, for instance. When I look at an explanation of the Trinity, and it goes back to uh, the like you have somebody explaining what the early church fathers said. They're explaining what they said. When I read it for myself, I'm not getting that, but I understand the confusion. And I understand how you could come up with that, with words and misunderstandings. Um, I know that it can't be uh, three because I know that there's only one. But it's if the Most High, if my mind, if the Most High is sending His arm down, it's still Him. But even thinking about it in that way is perplexing. All that just to say, Yeshua is in fact manna. I can't. I can't. I don't. It's beyond me. It's beyond my understanding. When He comes, when I'm transformed, when He comes, John says, whenever He comes, you'll be like He is. When I'm transformed, my body's gone, and I can receive a spiritual body, and I know everything that I'm supposed to know. I probably won't even care about these types of things, but I'm sure I'll know at that point. I probably won't care, but I'll know them. And I just chalk it up. I could give you the textbook, but it's not for you to know. I don't believe. I put it right over here in this category of Yeshua told us that he was this man. He was the bread from heaven. He's able to be, uh, have for his disciples to eat him. He's able to have for his disciples to drink his blood, right? He says all of these perplexing things, right? Things that when you hear right on the surface, you could turn around and walk away. That's some of the things that Messiah speaks out of his mouth. Some people did it. And then the ones who didn't do it, they said, I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm going to follow you. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to follow you. And so, for me, they set the precedent. I don't got to know. I believe in you know. Okay.
Hallelujah.
Okay, keep on going. Go back to verse 4. Just you can read 4, 5, and 6.
Verse 4. Your garments did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. Thus you shall know in your heart that as a man disciplines his son, so Yahweh your Elohim disciplines you. Therefore you shall guard the commands of Yahweh your Elohim, to walk in his ways and to fear him.
Okay, very good. So, speaking about, I went off on a side tangent. Speaking about the boots, speaking about the protection of the Most High, speaking about the fact that when we dwell in Messiah, He is a protection for us. Um, we live our life in the wilderness. It it's a miracle that these people walked around in this wilderness and their clothes didn't wear out. I got some old clothes. I got some shoes that's pretty old. They ain't 40 years old. You know what I mean? I got pants that's old, hoodies, that's old. For 40 years though. You know what I mean? That's miraculous. That's a miracle that they last that long. And that's probably all they had. My stuff probably only lasts the amount of time that it lasts because I could switch it up. If you walking around with one set of clothes, one set of sandals on your feet, and all you doing is walking in a circle for 40 years. And they ain't had no Air Force Ones on out there. They had no rubber soles. They had no rubber soles. Huh? They had some regular old, just some sandals or something. Some flip flops with the toe split. They had these little flip flops with the big toe divided from the other ones, probably. For 40 years, though. That's a miracle. That's a miracle that they. My work boots last a year. The shoes that I wear every day, I need a new pair next year. My everyday shoes that I actually do work in. Every year I need a new pair. These people walking around for 40 years in the Most High. They foot, they foot didn't swell. It says. So not only did the shoes then wear out, but they didn't lose their support in there either. That's a miracle.
Want to make sure they keep moving.
Yeah, because he said they're gonna be out there for 40 years. Well, I guess when you think about it, some of them didn't last 40 years. They died out there, but the young ones, the ones that was underage, the second generation that made it into the land, their stuff lasted for 40 years. Some people's stuff didn't last but a couple months because they was down in the grave. But the ones that lasted for 40 years, they stuff lasted for 40 years too. But that just speaks to the protection that the Most High provides for His people.
Hallelujah.
It's hard. They face hard trials. The young one watched their parents die from plagues. They things happen to that generation that made it in, that weak people, it'll cause them to turn aside. This is the God I serve that kills my mom and dad out here in the wilderness. I'm out of here. People go through different tribulations and things, um, and without being properly grounded in the Father, they fall to the wayside, not understanding that they're going through these things as a point of discipline, as a point of causing, because as a whole, he's forming Israel. He's taking Israel from a place of unrefinement to refinement into the, the land of promise. And so that's one of the things that we have to think about in terms of Sukkot, where I welcome the rain. I welcome the adversity that we face, because it's a life lesson teaching me that, this nothing. It's always an adversity. Sukkot's always an adversity. It's always hard to get here. It's always hard to make it through. Every year, there's always something that happens. Um, but again, it's the Most High showing us through His appointed times, teaching us that this is how life goes. This is how He refines us. He causes us to go through these things so that we can come out on the other side. And so, as we continue through, I'm not going to talk any more right now, I don't think. As we continue through uh, Sukkot, as we have in our minds the idea of, thinking about the journey, thinking about our destination, thinking about, the fact that we have these various things that come about in our lives. We can't allow for these things be the things that dictate our lives. Our lives are dictated by the Master, Yeshua, and we have to be able to move through this existence with our influence being Messiah, not these things that go on, because he's already been proven. Um, he's already been proven, and so I just want to encourage each and every one of you to, kind of pay special attention to, these next few days, and recognize, the adversities and as lessons, that things that are going to push us forward, and not things that are going to kind of hold us back, because at the end of the day we want to, you know be able to dwell in the hands of the protector uh, forever.
Hallelujah.
All right. Well, yeah.